The Colorado Business Roundtable is a public policy organization comprised of executives from Colorado's largest employers. We unapologetically amplify the voice of business in all four corners of Colorado. So welcome today to the Colorado Business Roundtable virtual roundtable, talking about workforce and education. And I'd love to introduce to you Dr. Becky Takeda-Tinker. She is the CEO of CSU Global, and she's a board member for Colorado Business Roundtable and also serves as the chair of our Workforce and Education Committee. So welcome, Dr. Becky.
I'd like to thank the panelists for joining us today to share their insights, their knowledge, and the look towards the future. When we think about where we are and where we will be post-COVID-19, it will be a very dynamic work environment with all sorts of new challenges about workforce and career readiness. And when we think about the mission of the Colorado Business Roundtable, our future lies in business being good. So with us today, we have Lee Wheeler-Berliner. He is the Managing Director of Colorado Workforce Development Council. And under his leadership, the council works to ensure that every Colorado employer has access to a skilled workforce and that every Coloradan has the opportunity for meaningful employment for individual and statewide economic prosperity. We also have Rebecca Kersting. She is the co-president and owner of CAP Logistics, an expert in providing customized transportation and logistics solutions to essential industries with unsurpassed excellence. Rebecca leads her company to unite human, technological, and freight services towards exceptional service in meeting client expectations. We also have Scott Laband. He is the president of Colorado Succeeds, a leading 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan coalition of business leaders focused on improving education and workforce development efforts to ensure that Colorado's businesses have innovative, homegrown talent that they need to thrive. And finally, we have Ray Johnston. He is IBM's Corporate Responsibility Manager. He oversees the company's community and workforce relationship programs for 16 states, including Colorado. For his region, Ray drives workforce development and K-12 education reform and is a recognized advocate for K-12 businesses and education partnerships. And knowing Ray and the great work that he does in Colorado, he rounds out our panel to help us go forward from today. I would like to thank all the panel that are here today, that participation in the Colorado Business Roundtable on workforce education. Your insights and expertise are so valuable in general, but with the economic impact of COVID, they're particularly important in today's time. We will emerge from this period with a workforce imbalance between double-digit unemployment in some sectors and then a lack of skill-ready workers in others. So the challenge of getting people back to work is immense. So thank you for the information you'll be sharing today with our listeners. All right, so let's start with Rebecca. Are you ready? All right.
Hi,
Rebecca,
ready.
with the
Yes.
breadth and reach, all right. With the breadth and reach of your company and your human resource expertise, I believe that it'll be helpful to our listeners if you could please briefly share what your Colorado employment challenges were prior to the COVID lockdown and how you were managing them. And then now with the crisis, what are your new challenges and how are you thinking about workforce?
They are such different scenarios. I mean, for all employers throughout the country of all sizes, a month ago looks so much different than today. Pre-COVID, our hiring and staffing issues were really around finding talent, bringing on new talent, locating that talent, retaining that talent. Our record low unemployment in Colorado meant that we had to work really, really hard to make people want to work with our organization. So a lot of our emphasis was on workplace culture, career paths, making sure we had defined career paths that people knew what their future looked like and that future involve the opportunity for growth, and then also incentive programs. So it's not just enough for people to come to work and have a job. They wanted to know how they could earn more. A lot of emphasis on work-life balance. So now post-COVID, it is almost a 180-degree flip. We've had to quickly transition our workforce to telework, and that has been quite a challenge for us and all of the employers here in Colorado. Now that we have handled that challenge, it's in managing our remote workforce, making sure that we have good communications, that we have metrics in place, and that we are able to look at productivity, that we are providing remote coaching and performance management, and really just rallying the teams in a time that is so uncertain, and there's just a lot of fear out there, and maintaining that sense of positivity. So it's totally different world.
Wow, you've grappled with a lot, and interesting coming from a more traditional industry and how you've made that shift. So we'll talk more about that, because I think what you've decided and how you've resettled into your new world will be really helpful. So thank you for the information. So Lee, as our panel expert on Colorado's workforce, we know that as the 1st of March, unemployment in the nation was at 3.5%, and Colorado was at a record low of 2.5%. And then just 2 months later, our Colorado unemployment rate nearly doubled. And as we started to come out of this crisis, what do you think will be Colorado's hiring needs related to specific knowledge, skills, and abilities?
Sure. So one of the interesting components of the economic crisis we're facing now is that the industries that are driving the unemployment claims currently are very different than the industries that were experiencing unemployment in 2019, which means that there continues to be a bit of a mismatch, and there are high-demand occupations in cybersecurity, in technology, where there will be a skills gap, and there still is a skills gap as we emerge out of this current crisis, and then other industries that will face just big hiring needs as they ramp up. Accommodations and food services was about 8% of unemployment claims in 2019. It's been between 20 and 30% of the unemployment insurance claims in the month of March and in the first part of April. And so when we think about the competencies that will be required of individuals to obtain good careers coming out of this and to help drive our economy forward, you know, we benefit from our ability to look back at what knowledge, skills, and abilities were necessary in 2019, because we've been paying attention to skills-based hiring and these concepts of a competency-based talent development ecosystem. And we know from our 2019 Talent Pipeline report that management, communication, collaboration, problem solving were all within the top 10 of the skills in terms of how frequently they appear in job postings. As we think about what will be in demand and necessary moving forward, we know that problem solving will be huge. Collaboration and communication will be at the top of that list, and they will honestly be packaged under the umbrella of digital literacy and ensuring that as people think about what the workforce of the future looks like and then to have comfort with technology, there'll be a big focus on digital literacy for employability. And so the use of technology, communicating through technology, understanding how to engage and convene people in a virtual environment, to work with your coworkers wherever they may be to ensure that you're going to be able to stay productive, to manage your time and drive results, will be some of the most critical skills and competencies for individuals moving forward.
Great information. And I love that it aligns with what we do at CSU Global. So maybe I'm just partial, but I think that's a real great advice. So thank you for sharing that.
You bet. And that Talent Pipeline report is done on an annual basis. So the 2020 Talent Pipeline report, which we will release in December, will likely look very different in terms of what some of the data is telling us at that point in time around the direction that our economy starts to head at the end of 2020.
That's going to be a very interesting report. So we'll be on the lookout for it and make sure we get it posted on the Colorado Business Roundtable website. Thanks, Lee.
Yep.
All right. Ray, based on your
Yes.
longtime work with IVM and you're the organizations in Colorado and the other 10, 15 states actually that you oversee, what are the top soft skills that your organization believe are priorities for current and future employees? Now, I know that Lee shared a little bit about what they're thinking at the state level, but given your breadth and the region that you cover, it would be great to hear what you are hearing from that region and, of course, in Colorado.
I'd be happy to, Becky, and you're right, Lee did touch on a few of them. And I think I want to make a distinction here, because soft skills, a few years ago were new rage, and I think they're even probably more important, and maybe even a few more added to them as we look at today's environment. And I don't know that they should be called soft skills anymore. I think a better term is probably essential skills, because I think it's essential that most people, whether they're in school or being reskilled, whatever it might be, trying to better themselves, these are the kinds of skills folks are looking for. Obviously, collaboration is huge, because if you can't work and collaborate with other people, you can't listen to other people's opinions, you can't look at their strengths and leverage whoever's there at the table, it's not going to work. Communication, I think that's one thing Lee mentioned, and not just verbal, but written as well, and also physical is important. Analytical thinking is another one. I know we talk about that one a lot. Self-management, I think, is huge, especially if you look at what we're all going through today, working from home, most of us. Yeah. If you don't have self-management skills, regardless of whether you're in your office or at home, that's not good either. Motivation, you need to be motivated. Leadership skills, I think, are huge today. We need people to step up and be leaders. And when I say leaders, it can involve, being ethical, of course, but also have the ability to keep the best interest of the community in mind. And I think with COVID-19, that's huge right now, too. Responsibility, being responsible to yourself and others. And I think one that we may not talk about a lot is curiosity, because I think that's a big one, too. Always be seeking out new knowledge, because we never know where things are going. Like, look at this. A lot of people may need new skills. So they need to be curious and seeking out the new knowledge. But even more importantly, I like to say that they need to be stay informed about the larger world around you and the forces that are shaping it, because that can impact you as an individual, whether it be your job or even your personal life, immensely.
Right. Thinking about the virus and how I should have been paying closer attention. I did a vacation throughout Asia, did not go to China, thankfully, but that had I been more aware, maybe we wouldn't have been caught off off guard so much to end up where we are and not really expect it. So that's a great skill about that global awareness. Thank you. Scott, as we think more about coming back to Colorado and the mission you have to grow talent from Colorado and bring it together with industry, based on your Colorado Succeeds tenure and your convening work, what are the top requested competencies that industries are seeking, that you're hearing about from business and even some of your association work that we could be working to bring and develop in Colorado?
Well, thanks for the question, Becky, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of this today. Largely Lee and Ray did a phenomenal job naming those. The fact of the matter is that, we've been studying these for the last 5 years or so, and the competencies that employers tell us that they care about seem to be pretty markedly consistent year over year. There's not a lot of fluctuations there. And they really tend to be things like, as we move into this world of artificial intelligence, the skills that they're seeking seem to be more around the human needs, things like emotional intelligence. As we're all being asked to work with people and machines, it's the people who know how to do that best and how to create value and how they problem solve while they're working with a diverse group of people and tools are the ones that are finding a lot of success. We tend to talk about these as the 4 C's, so kind of grabbing a little bit from both Lee and from Ray. The 4 C's are just an easy way for us to remember it, and it's basically a lot of what they've already said. It's critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. And while I completely agree with Ray that these are the essential skills, what we're finding is employers are actually really struggling to see them in recent college graduates, and they're really identifying that they're only somewhat proficient in those areas. And so that's been a big charter to us and a big call to action to our team at Colorado Succeeds to figure out how we can work with communities and schools and learning providers all across the state to help make sure that students have experiences where they can build these skills and competencies. And as I look back over my time doing that work, there's really 4 things that I continue to see the schools and the educators who do this best do consistently. And so just to share those with you quickly, the first is that they really let students work on real world problems that students care about. You know, it helps them answer that age old question of why am I learning this and when will this ever matter to my life? Well, if it's a problem, number one, it's helpful to be able to identify a connection to that problem and an understanding of why that problem matters in the context of their life and the broader world around them. And then number 2, having a sense that they have a framework to work on solving that problem. It matters less so what framework you use, could be scientific method, could be design thinking, but it's really about developing those reasoning skills that they use as they try to apply that framework to the problem. Number 3, it's empowering students to work with a broad array of people while they solve those problems. And I'm not just talking about their peers and other students, although that's really important. What's increasingly more important is that they learn how to also work with adults, whether they be employers, nonprofit leaders, government officials, and of course educators, so that they're really rounding out their experiences and connecting with a broad group of people. And then 4th, it's equipping them with the technology and tools that professionals would use to solve that problem. So it could be things like 3D printers, computer software, hardware, and skills like data analytics, coding, data visualization. Students who are gaining those skills as they're developing their problem-solving practice are finding themselves to not only gain more relevance in their education and therefore more engagement, but they're also building the skills and building a bigger picture and a bigger vision of what their future could look like.
Wow, you are doing some heavy lifting. Thank you for taking that on as it relates to K-12 and really beyond. I know that you are working broadly now in Colorado to make sure that our Coloradans, our citizens, have the ability to get jobs and really good ones. So thank you for that work. All right, Rebecca, I'm going to come back to you because we heard you talk a little bit about having to adapt to fully online, remote, and coming from your particular sector, I think that too is a big lift. And if you could share some of the insights and what you found to be successful and maybe not even successful, so that people can understand maybe how they could adapt and pick up some of your tips to help evolve their organizations. Because I think being online and being remote is now something that's part of our new normal.
It is. We had a very dedicated workforce who took pride in showing up to work every day. Even, unfortunately, when they were sick, it was like a badge of honor to show up and say, I'm really not feeling good, but I'm so important that I have to be here. So it was very difficult for our workforce to, I think, mentally make the shift over to the remote work. But from a skill and capability standpoint, it's amazing how in this world of technology, how seamlessly it all went. So we have obviously used remote conferencing systems. There's a lot of them out there. We're on one right now. Everyone has gotten very good at them. And in addition to that, having phone systems that can seamlessly transfer callers to the service representatives that they need, and having such a system in place has been really important. And then access to remote terminal servers or desktop as a service, having those in place really helped us to make the transition from a very physical office-based organization to a remote environment. But in addition to those that are very obvious, I think some other tools that have been very helpful have been around that coaching piece and the development of those soft skills and those relationships, and utilizing those tools that help with project collaboration, also performance coaching, and ensuring that supervisors are regularly engaging with their direct reports. it's easy when you have an office environment to check in on your coworkers who are sharing physical space with you, but it can become a little daunting if you are having to check in with everybody and make multiple phone calls throughout the day. You don't know if someone's helping a child out with a homework assignment or if they are if they're on another call. So having systems that help with that remote interaction is also really, really important.
Yeah, I think when we think about how we're all merging family, work, and trying to be professional, it is a new time for all of us to figure that out. And our kids having to figure out that they just can't wander in, or maybe they can, is that the new normal? Really interesting when we think about the change in even generation, working when you're sick, right? That was certainly something that has been a thing for decades, since World War II, and now it's a problem. And so adjusting to that new normal is going to be interesting on how we get there and still manage to be productive. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sharing those tips. I think that will be really helpful to our listeners. Ray, along those same lines of technology, when we think about IBM, I used to work at IBM when I was in college. I was an intern, and I just thought it was, the best place ever because it was such a leader and is a leader in technological leadership and leading and advancing us forward. So given your mission, your own personal professional mission as it relates to training, education, advocacy, what do you think we will be looking at as we move forward in blending education and technology, and how will we apply what we have just experienced going forward? And is there an opportunity, or what are the opportunities to improve traditional systems as a potential silver lining in this crisis?
How much time do you have, Becky? I mean,
no, I want to hear the good news, Ray. What's the good news?
No, it's all good news, trust me. And I think if there's a silver lining, the COVID-19, and I think Lee touched on it, I think it's forcing us more, if you will, to even embrace digital learning even more, which can be beneficial to a lot of people that don't maybe have access. They don't have a science teacher. They don't have a math teacher. Digital learning can do a lot of those things. Folks that have, need to be reskilled. Maybe from COVID-19, they lost their job. They need a new skill. Some of that can be done through digital learning. Scott talked about how we need to make sure that, students, especially in schools today, can relate to real life experiences and how this applies to what they're doing at home every day or in their real life. And that's kind of what we do through our P-TECH schools. All those essential skills I talk about, we work into our work-based learning for just about every class students take through P-TECH, because you're right, some of these students coming out of college do not have these skills. So if we can teach those at the beginning of a young age, these kids are going to be at an advantage, and then have them be around adult learners like IBM employees or whatever. So that's important. And we've done a few things in this area. P-TECH is one, and we've kind of evolved from P-TECH to a new platform called Open P-TECH, which anybody can use. Teachers can go there and find digital learning opportunities, both for their students and for professional development for themselves. And now it's mainly geared towards maybe middle school, high school, because it's more high-tech issues around AI and maybe blockchain and things like that. But there's professional development opportunities as well through Open P-TECH. And anybody can use it. It's free. We're also partnered with other organizations. We know how important AI is and digital learning. And so we're doing a series of online institutes, if you will, with MindSpark Learning, which is based obviously in Colorado. And we do a lot of things with organizations like Colorado Succeeds, which Scott represents. And we're doing a series of AI online webinars and then they can get a badge when they're done. So they have an industry credential that they can put on a resume or be proud of. And some students can take classes, by the way, on Open P-TECH where they can get badges as well. Another thing we're really pushing right now too, or getting ready to push even harder, is something called Skills Build. And I know there's a lot of applications out there, But really, this is to help folks develop skills for a job in a high growth area. And of course, when you talk about IBM, we're pushing more the high tech area. That's where our expertise is. So we're talking about areas like web development, cybersecurity, AI, client management, those kinds of things, where they can learn those skills through a skills build. There's a series of courses and content there that they can take, again, earn badges. And if nothing else, maybe they just want to brush up. Maybe they have a skill, but they need help with those essential skills. And Skills Build can help with those too. They can help develop those vital professional skills. And we're looking to work with nonprofits, working with maybe organizations like what Lee represents and Scott to build and make this a very robust system. We really use IBM's cognitive learning to build this and IBM Watson, so it becomes a very robust learning platform, if you will, that I think a lot of people can benefit from. And we're going to be pushing it hard with coaches that people can reach out to, real live people, and that, because I think that's important too, having a mentor to help you say, hey, how do I get through this? Someone you can reach out to, and most of that would probably, frankly, be done online too. So digital is huge right now, and we like to think that we're there to help in any way we can.
Wow, what an amazing initiative. That's really impressive, and it's going to be really helpful to our next generation of workers, and really those today that are now unemployed or looking at possibly being laid off. So I think about what is next. How do I, as CSU Global's president, move forward and help be a leader in this area? You know, our mission has been workplace success through higher education. But when I hear about things that you're doing and what Scott and Lee are working on and what Rebecca's grappling with, I come back to, and this is a question for Scott, because I think he does so much convening. He probably has some really good answers to it. But what is it that we as leaders could be doing to better prepare workers for our dynamic futures, based on all that you have experienced and the people that you work with on a regular basis, trying to grow talent in Colorado and matching talent with jobs? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I really appreciate the question, because there's actually a lot that you as business leaders can do. And the first I would say is you can send better signals of the skills and the credentials that you need in your jobs today. Actually, the skills and competencies that you need. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Instead of relying on degrees as proxies of readiness, you can shift more towards making sure that your job descriptions identify the specific skills and competencies that you are looking for and that you're in need of. That's an important signal to the workforce and to the labor market about the kinds of things that they should be preparing themselves for. Another thing that you can do is sort of in alignment with what Ray talked on around P-TECH, is just this notion of creating a stronger connection between employers and employees and schools and districts, so that you can be in more direct communication about how the future of work is changing and the types of skills that means will be required now and in the future. If you're in more communication with each other, like on an advisory council that the P-TECH model offers, I think it just helps create a lot more value. Another big one for me is, supporting navigation tools. Even if you get the signals right, there's just so much information out there as it relates to the different kinds of career opportunities and pathways and training providers. And so I just really want to call out some of the work Lee's doing around My Colorado Journey. It's a one-stop shop to help aggregate all of that information in one place. And as leaders in the community, would love for you all to look at that website and find ways that you can connect to it and add value to it to make sure that we give job seekers today more information and more clarity around what those kind of opportunities look like. Another one that we've talked a little bit about on this call today is just around this notion of upskilling. It's clear from research that skills lose about half of their value in about 5 years' time. And so this notion that in the world we're in today, you constantly have to be continually improving yourself and your own skills and abilities. And in fact, that many employees want to do that while they're at their own place of business, and they want to receive that kind of training from their employer. So I think that's a huge opportunity. But as leaders, you don't have to worry that you are on the hook for doing that alone. Becky, I think the work that you at CSU Global are doing with organizations all around the state to help them design things that are really customized to the kinds of skills that will help their employees continue to develop at their place of business is really impressive, and will continue to help create a lot of value and loyalty. Once employees feel invested in, I think they're going to want to continue to show value for that company. One other one that comes to mind is just this notion of using your voice. So many of us have a powerful voice. We have an ability to advocate, but we don't oftentimes use it enough. And so I would just say, ideally, we will find a world where education providers and training providers become more agile and become more responsive. But the way I think we get there is putting incentives in place, whether they be through public policy or they be through funding mechanisms that create the conditions for those systems to be more responsive. And so that's the kind of work that we do all the time, where we're trying to advocate for those sort of structures and incentives, and just want to encourage the business community that they have a big role to play and an important degree of influence in those conversations.
That's great. What a nice way to end. Thank you for all the information and really encouraging what we as leaders can do, that we have the ability. It's a matter of making those a priority. And I appreciate that you understand what we do at CSU Global to make sure that our students are ready, and that they're ready quickly, and that they can stack to a degree if that's where they're headed, but certainly a certificate program works if that will help them get a job. Thank you for that. In the last, we have about 5 minutes, so I want to do a quick lightning round that would allow us to hear your perspectives within the lens of your organizational mission. And in that round, if you could share what your mission is and how our listeners today could best support you or your organization, or maybe both. And we'll go ahead and start with Rebecca.
So our core business is transportation, and our mission is to provide customized transportation solutions with unsurpassed service. How others can help, I think that for certain industries, we would love to be contacted if you need help with a logistics problem, but I think our mission goes beyond that into our community. We do believe that it's good business to be a good neighbor, and have found that in every crisis is an opportunity for all of us to use our talents to do good. For us, that meant importing 10,000 masks for the state of Colorado to go to hospitals in need. But everyone can step up, I think, right now in some big way. And I encourage every organization and individual in our state to find an opportunity right now to do good for our community.
Wow, thank you for doing that great work, and thank your employees and the company. That is wonderful, and we appreciate it for Colorado. Thanks. Ray,
You're welcome.
How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, IBM's involved with a lot of high-tech areas, if you will, but two of our foremost right now are AI and cloud, and we got to find skills, the future skills, like most companies, and we got to find them in Colorado. We got to find them locally as much as anything, because we're not doing a service to our students or even folks looking for a job right now unless they're aware of what opportunities are out there and they know how to go about getting those skills. They need help, and that's so professional development is not only for adults, like Scott mentioned. Learning right now is ongoing. You never stop learning. Even when you graduate from college, you have a career, you're still bettering yourself, because things change. And then for teachers, if teachers don't have the skills they need to be able to relate to their students, so the students understand, for instance, the IBM AI education. One of the reasons we're doing it is because students may not have a very good understanding of what their future might hold, because teachers don't necessarily have the tools or the resources to be able to let them know what opportunities are out there. And that's our job as business leaders, to make sure that they're aware of that through whatever it is. I don't care if you're a small business or a large business, you can help with that. You can get involved with your local school. You can get involved with Colorado Succeeds or Lee and other folks to bring something to the table. One of the things any company can offer is their intellectual capacity of the people that work for their company, which is volunteerism and having them go out and do what they can to help. And so that's what I would leave with folks, that it's professional development across all scales.
Great, thank you. Scott.
So for us, our mission is very clear. It's twofold. All kids educated to their greatest potential, and all businesses have the homegrown talent they need to thrive. And so for us, just two things that we're working on right now to try and be value added to this movement during this really challenging time is, if you go to coloradosucceeds.org, on that website, you'll find some resources that will help you provide better distance learning tools and access and supports for your children. So frankly, knowing that parents are in a really difficult time right now, trying to be homeschool teachers and struggling sometimes at that, I certainly know that I am. This is a place where you'll go and find some entry points and just some good resources that'll give you some encouragement, support, and tools to use along the way. And then the second one is, there's just so many kids out there who relied on school for their basic needs, such as meals, up to 2 meals a day. And right now, they don't have a lot of security around where they're going to find their next meal. And so we're just humbled to play a small role in partnering with a broad group of folks called the Colorado Restaurant Response. And the idea there is working with phenomenal restaurants in the Denver metro area, helping them rehire their employees in the kitchen so that they can prepare ready-to-heat meals that they then distribute straight to the door of families who have food insecurity. They're doing this for about $6.50 per meal, and we're distributing about 5,000 meals per day. So if you go to coloradorestaurantresponse.org, you can go and either identify a family who you know that is in need of those kinds of services, or you can make a donation. All of the money goes directly to meal preparation and distribution. There are no administration costs associated with that whatsoever.
Great. Wow, that is fabulous. Thank you for sharing that information. And then lastly, I'm going to end with Lee. And Lee, we know that Colorado Business Roundtable's mission has been profits and purpose, unapologetically telling the story that business is good, particularly in Colorado. So I'd like to hear, in addition to the lightning round question, what your personal and professional thoughts are on how business can emerge from this crisis in Colorado better prepared for the dynamics of the global economy, and then how do we better engage with your organization that is such a leader in our state?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Becky. So one of the components and concepts we firmly believe in is that shared value is good business. And when businesses engage in their communities, when they focus on the needs of all the stakeholders that are part of their value chain and a part of their community, then they are more competitive and are able to achieve those bottom line results and achieve profits and purpose, just as that statement says. One of the points of evidence we can look to is that during the Great Recession, those companies that continued to invest in their employees came out of the recession more competitive. And that may seem a little bit counterintuitive. If you're in a constriction of your core business, do you invest at the same level with your employees? But it's absolutely critical for a number of different reasons. One is that when you're investing and training individuals, when you're continuing to utilize apprenticeships, when you're opening your doors to internships and job shadowing, you're bringing on that next generation of talent, and you are allowing them to adapt and to experience and learn from whatever the crisis is of that moment. And so that will enhance their agility and their ability to drive your business forward whenever we emerge and out of this crisis phase and move into an economic recovery phase. There's also that aspect of these types of times in our economy can test the culture of an organization and will display the culture of a business. And so the way that a business brings on individuals, the way that a business says goodbye to individuals speaks volumes about the role that company plays in the community, about how they approach their work. And we know layoffs may be a necessity in this environment, but there's a way to do layoffs with a sense of compassion and communicating with your employees up front and helping connect them to other opportunities and to utilize and lean on the resources that are available through the state of Colorado, such as the WorkShare program that allows you to share some of the costs with unemployment insurance rather than fully eliminating positions, creating job attached situations so that if you believe you can't emerge and bring people back on, it's an easier route for them to get support while you don't have the work for them to do, and then immediately get connected back to your company when the economy starts to pick up and to move again. And I think that takes me into that role that businesses can play and the function of the Colorado Workforce Development Council. Our mission is to enhance and sustain a skills-based talent development network that meets the needs of employers, job seekers, and learners for today and tomorrow. We are always looking at ensuring that this equation of supply and demand is in balance in our state of Colorado, and that we're fulfilling the demand of businesses and employers and translating, using the signals that Scott referenced earlier, taking that information from companies and businesses and employers, connecting them with education and training to ensure that the systems we have throughout our states are working to prepare individuals with those essential skills necessary to move into those in-demand careers that will close those skills gaps that we have in our states and ensure that people have a good chance at economic prosperity. And so as businesses, you can engage in your communities, you can serve on local workforce boards, you can reach out to the state about ways to get connected to the Colorado Workforce Development Council, to make use of the services that are available, including My Colorado Journey, understanding what that can provide to individuals and how you can plug into that efforts, or posting jobs through Connecting Colorado, which is the state's labor exchange board, to ensure that people who have skills, who are ready to go to work, can find the postings that you have right now, and we can help support that match so that businesses can thrive in this moment and can do it for the future as well.
That's great information, Lee. We will add that to the Colorado Business Roundtable website and make sure that we provide those links, because our business members could benefit greatly from that information and also the channels of potential employees. So thank you for sharing that. Great information. Well, our time is over. So thank you, Rebecca, Lee, Scott, and Ray, for your time and sharing of your expertise and insights. When I think about Colorado post-COVID and into the future, and then just hearing you today, I know that we have such great leaders as yourselves leading these organizations. And now I feel really good about the future of Colorado industry and businesses. And I am really confident that we will emerge from this period even better equipped to successfully compete. And not just in Colorado, but gosh, when I think about the leadership of the four of you, we will do that on a global scale. And so thank you for the work. Thank you for the leadership, and for thinking beyond where we are today so that we will be prepared as a state and as a nation to compete on that global scale, which is so critical to the success of so many people. So please be safe, be well, and I hope you all have a nice evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.